Hello and welcome back to DriveDriverDriven. I'm Humble and we're back on the MK again today. Yes, I still have the glasses. I find out next week about the whole eye condition cataracts deal. If you missed it, I had a health update that kind of explains that a little more, but that's why I still have the glasses on. So anyway, back on the MK, what I wanted to work on today was our brake system, which we're going to have to work around the engine that I very excitedly installed maybe a bit prematurely. So I'll spin the camera around and kind of show you the game plan for today. Looking at the front of the car, you can see with the engine in place, the panel that we cut out and then made again, that's down here, this aluminum panel, and then that is what our oil-air separator is sitting on. Well, that location is typically where our brake fitting would sit. If we kick the oil-air separator out of the way briefly, I have this AN3T, and in our factory location, it would sit about there. Actually, it would sit a little closer into the engine, which is why it was a problem before. And since that was on the panel that we cut out, we got to replace it. Well, I don't want to put it there because, again, that's where our oil-air separator will be. So what I'm thinking is putting it over here, down below where our steering column is. If I can get a good angle on it here. Interesting camera angle, but you get the picture. It's going to sit down here on this lower frame rail. And then the idea is that I'll take the actual brake line, which will be a soft line, and route it on the outside but against this outer chassis rail. And then we're going to follow this rail all the way up, just a straight shot to our master cylinder there, which this is our front master, and then our rear has the hard line already on it. And then our clutch is over there on the side, on the farthest outside there. And then from this T, we just go straight up to this junction, which will lead out to the wheel. And then from the bottom, we're going to come out around the front here, just clip everything in place, and then down the side, and then up this rail to this other junction here, which will again have another lead that comes out to the other side. So what we need to do is we need to first fasten that T-block to the lower chassis rail, and then we need to start making lines. So from there we'll make our line from the master cylinder and then link our junctions on the nose, and then from our junctions we can custom make lines that go out to each corner. I'm not sure if I need to make these outside lines just yet. I thought I had some that came with the kit, but they may not be terminated correctly for the types of ends I need. So I have a -3 AN adapter on a caliper, and then these little junctions here, these 90 degrees, are -3 AN on both sides. So it's going to be just AN all the way around on the front, and that's just the front circuit. I'm on the fence about redoing the rear in a soft line, even though we already have the hard line in place. My thinking there is, while I'm at it, while I'm doing plumbing, if I don't like the look of these mismatched brake lines, like a hard line and a soft line, might as well just do it now. But on the flip side is, if it's not broke, don't fix it. But I've already got a soft line for the clutch. It's going to be the same black vinyl covered PTFE material. I'm going to have that on the front circuit. So seeing the rear circuit in hard line just is going to bug me. And I'm sure it's going to bother a lot of other people too. So I'm just really tempted to do the same for that rear circuit and just redo that, at least out to the rear T, in that same soft line material. Now, some people will chime in and say that you don't want to use soft line because you'll have a soft pedal and blah blah blah, but that's just not the case. I've run soft line in almost all of my race cars. You'll see it in professional race cars. Like, if your pedal is soft, it's not because of the line, it's because of your brake ratio, whether it be the size of the pots on your calipers, the size of your master cylinder, the throw on the pedal. There's a lot that goes into it, and if everything's sized correctly, the pedal will not be soft. So with that out of the way, let's get this T installed and then start making some brake lines. Okay, change of plan. I was looking through my fittings and realized that I didn't have the right adapter for the master cylinder. And like I said before, I kind of want these things to match. And when I was looking for my fittings, I found basically this old bent line that we had done up and crushed. And so I chopped the end off of it. And it turns out there's enough left to use. So I've got our bend here that goes to the master cylinder. We're going to follow the same path down below. And it's kind of hard to get the camera in there, but you can see that bend that comes around, and I've marked it. So what I have to do now is just cut the end off of that. And I do have tube certs or nut certs, whatever you want to call them, that go from hardline to AN, and so that's what I'm going to use. And I'm going to make this bit at least a hardline, and maybe I might make the next section that goes around the front from this guy over to that corner there also in hardline. It just depends on if I've got enough. So for now, let's pull this hardline out and put the right end on it. Not really any fancy tools here. Just using a basic pipe cutter. And if you don't know how this works, you just tighten this knob on the top, which shortens this distance between this sharp cutting wheel and a little foot below it. And you spin it around the tube until it gets easier. And you tighten this guy up again, and lather, rinse, and repeat, and you'll cut through the tube. Just like that. And leaves a nice little surface that we can work with. All right, never mind my neighbor's lawn work. So what we're gonna do is put our fastener on first. And then this is our little tube cert. Make sure that goes on. And try to push that back as far as we can. And then hopefully we have enough that we can clamp our flaring tool on there. All right, so we have our flaring tool. It's captured our pipe. And then we're going to try and send this guy down on there in a nice uniform fashion. You can see that working in there. You want to go slowly and just double check the flare. And most importantly, you want to look and make sure that it hasn't split. So that looks good to me. And this is what our end result looks like. So the reason you have this guy on here is to support the backside of the flare. Otherwise, it can crack because it's just unsupported and getting crushed. So you have this support back behind there, And when you pull this guy up in there, it's all set to go on. So let's put it on the car. All right, we've got our first pipe in place that goes from the master cylinder to the T. Everything's tightened up, and I just need to secure it with some P-clips. There's a hole there, and I'm probably going to put a little, I don't know, a piece of hose or something around it so it doesn't vibrate against the chassis, and then zip tie it to the chassis. It's a kind of a nice solution there. And so we're at the T, and I've already started work on our second line, but I wanted to have, I wanted to explain the method to my madness here. I've mentioned smart ends and dumb ends with hoses and pipes before, and so this is the dumb end. This is where we're starting. And I've already terminated this end. We got our tube nut in there. That's all set, and I've done the first couple of bends, which are just 45s, to get us around this little corner here and to bring us across. So next step, what I did was I started measuring, because now it gets hard to fit this tube in and around and check and double check. So I've done some rough measurements from this point to this point, copying the measurements for our 45 here onto the tube, and then measuring back so we're in line with this fitting here. And then finally, from this ground plane up past this fitting, because the game plan is we're going to mark all these spots on the tube here, as you can see. This is where our bends are going to go. So this is the first 45 on the passenger side. This is the second 45. Then that takes us towards the back of the car, and this is a 90 degree that's going to turn upwards then. And then finally, this is where we're going to cut the pipe, and that's going to be too long. And then this takes us to the smart end, where once we have everything bent and set in place, then we can take a proper measurement and cut it down to its proper length. But this is so that we don't have all this extra length to mess with. So I'm going to start bending this up, and we can get this pipe into place. All right, as usual, it takes a couple ins and outs, but you can sort of see it right through there. I have the tube nut on that T, and then it comes around down in the front here, and then right up the side, and then this is where I'm talking about the smart end. So kind of a close-up here. I've marked the tube next to the fitting there, and I actually need to cut it a little below that. So this is me pushing the tube all the way down, and I don't want it to be touching the bottom of the car. I want it to come up a little bit, so I'm going to cut it just a little bit short. I've got plenty of room to play with, and then we can put the tube nut on this side and secure it. And the end result, we have our tube nut there, got everything in place. That's definitely not a 1/4 inch shorter than I intended, because I accidentally flared the end without putting the tube nut on. So yeah, in case you do that, that's why you save yourself a little room, but luckily we still got plenty of room under the pipe. I did not end up cutting it short like I said I was going to. I cut on the line because I thought just in case, and then I was right because I did a stupid anyway. So got that corrected. This sits up off the floor, just enough to get your finger under there, which is good. I've got plenty of room to come around here and attach it to the chassis. So I'll go back through and do that. But while I was at it, I went and did this side. So this comes up from our brake tee down here. And I thought about just doing a straight shot, just going straight up. But I was worried about if there's like growth in the chassis or whatever. And we're talking like just really minor amounts. But because this is rigid mounted, it's hard pipe, and you know, it may or may not grow at the same rate as the chassis, I decided better safe than sorry. I'll just put a funky little bend in it so that It won't fatigue and crack, and this will give it a little more room to move if that's a thing. So again, better safe than sorry. I just went and did it this way. So with that done, that's at least the front brake set done up into the corners on the ends. And like I said before, I think I'm gonna have to custom make the ends for that. And something else I noticed, I might have to cut an extra hole just to run the tube through. And we'll get to that in a bit. So I think that's gonna do it today. Kind of a quick little project to knock out. I've been meaning to get this done for a minute. And as I said before, it's nice to just get back on the MK project. So thank you guys for hanging in there, and thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.